Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into an incredibly fascinating story. We're going to explore how the discipline of geography in India truly came of age. We're talking about a massive transformation here. From what started as a pretty simple tool for colonial extraction, right into a fiercely independent, nation-building science.
But hey, before we get into the weeds of this history, I want you to ask yourself a quick question. Who actually built the foundation of modern geography in India? I mean, who were the pioneers that laid the groundwork for literally everything that followed?
Well, here's the wild part. The very first generation of Indian geographers weren't formally trained in geography at all. They had zero formal background in it. Instead, they adopted it from totally different disciplines like geology, commerce, and mathematics. You had brilliant minds like D. Gupta coming from a commerce background in Calcutta, or S.P. Chatterjee crossing over from geology. By pivoting their entire careers, they left an absolute permanent mark on the history of this discipline.
So, we're going to break this whole story down into 5 quick chapters. The unlikely pioneers, building the base, the geography boom, breaking Western molds, and finally, the future of Indian geography. Let's jump right in.
To make sense of all of this, scholar Lalita Rana actually mapped this evolution into 4 really neat chronological stages. We've got the formative, informative, confirmative, and reformative eras. Think of these 4 stages as our roadmap for today to really grasp how this science evolved.
All right, Chapter 1, The Unlikely Pioneers, which takes place during the formative stage, basically any time prior to the 1950s.
Back then, early geographical knowledge was tied at the hip to colonial institutions. And honestly, it was mostly designed for mapping and extraction. You can trace this way back to 1767 with the Survey of India in Dehradun, and then the Geological Survey in 1851. In these early days, geography definitely wasn't some independent academic pursuit. It was basically just a descriptive tool for imperial control.
But then things start shifting. If you look at the data between 1925 and 1947, there is a massive pre-independence awakening happening. University geography departments literally skyrocketed from absolute 0 to 17. And in that exact same window, the number of geographical societies and journals basically sprang out of nowhere to hit 6 each. This was the exact tipping point where geographical knowledge finally established a true academic foothold in the country.
Which brings us to Chapter 2, Building the Base. Welcome to the informative stage of the 1950s.
This decade was a total game changer. It laid down a massive structural foundation. We saw monumental texts dropping like O.H.K. Spates, India and Pakistan in 1952, and scholars like R.L. Singh pushing urban geography right to the forefront. But a truly vital moment arrived in 1956 with the establishment of the National Atlas and Thematic Mapping Organization, or NATMO. That move just put geographical teaching and research on warp speed across the whole nation.
To put that growth into perspective, by 1950, exactly 8 universities were offering postgraduate programs in geography. We're talking places like Aligarh, Calcutta, Allahabad, and Banaras. This core group of 8 essentially built the engine that fueled rapid development and set the stage for an absolute boom.
And that boom is Chapter 3, the confirmative stage of the 1960s.
The absolute crowning achievement of this era? Hosting the 21st International Geographical Congress right in New Delhi in 1968. Professor S.P. Chatterjee presided over it, and honestly, you really can't overstate how huge this moment was. It proved that India was now standing shoulder to shoulder with the global geographic community. They had officially arrived.
Along with that international cred, the science started branching out in a major way into economic, human, and physical geography, plus regional planning. And all of this was backed by an absolute explosion of local academic journals. I mean, the sheer geographic spread is incredible, stretching from Varanasi all the way to Jabalpur, Ajmer, and Ranchi. Geography was literally mapping its own academic network across the entire subcontinent.
Moving on to Chapter 4, Breaking Western Molds. We are now in the reformative stage, kicking off around 1971.
This is where the discipline hits its rebellious phase, right? It finally breaks free from relying on Anglo-American ideologies. According to a 1999 survey, Indian geography completely shifted its paradigm. Geographers started adopting hardcore quantitative techniques and, most importantly, building their own indigenous models. It was no longer about just copy-pasting Western ideas, it was about digging into the actual, complex reality of Indian society and culture.
And the payoff was massive. thanks to trailblazers from universities all over the country, visionaries like VLS Prakasa Rao, Munis Raza, and P. Dayal. By the year 2000, over 50 independent organizations were driving this research. Indian geography had finally become a fully autonomous, self-sustaining ecosystem.
Which leads us to our final stop. Chapter 5, The Future of Indian Geography.
So, what does all this historical maturity actually mean for India today? Well, right now, Indian geography sits at a major crossroads. Modern geographers are taking that incredible foundation and supercharging it with advanced tools like GIS, remote sensing, and complex quantitative analysis. The endgame here? Creating completely indigenous, customized methodologies to tackle India's wildly complex housing, planning, and developmental realities.
As we wrap up this explainer, there's a powerful warning from the source text that we really need to sit with. It says, "A nation can only ignore geography at its own peril." And honestly, that hits the nail on the head. You just can't separate historical events and national progress from geographic realities. They're a package deal.
So knowing just how hard-fought the independence of this academic field was, what pressing geographical challenges do you think India urgently needs to solve today to secure its future? Take a look at the landscapes around you. Think about the data driving your own city. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, keep asking the right questions.